So the word on the street is that people just don't want to go to work. They don't want to do the work. Companies and businesses are short staffed. And you've seen the signs in the windows now hiring. And then the employees they do have, and I'm seeing this more and more now, the newer employees in stores like Target, Walmart, and even at restaurants. And I came across two at a car dealership yesterday. They're all struggling. Have you ever seen someone just trying so hard, but you can see that they just don't have a clue? They just don't have what it takes. So even today, I went to this Target nearby, and I came here because I wanted to pick up a magazine. And a lot of the articles I read are online, and I really just miss the feel and the engagement of holding a paper magazine in my hands and thumbing through the pages. Call me old-fashioned or nostalgic, whatever. So I'm in Target, and I'm trying to find a good magazine that has important information on topics that interest me, like the real estate market, the possible market collapse, and other data that can be better and helpful and more helpful for me to understand our economy and prepare for a possible economic collapse. So I ended up going with a Forbes magazine because I remembered hearing Forbes mentioned in a recent video I was watching from Meet Kevin, or maybe it was Epic Economist. I don't remember. But either way, I decided to go with the Forbes magazine. And I walked around some more after I picked up the magazine, and I browsed the store before heading to checkout. I went and checked out their inventory on some of their food products. I went and checked some prices. And I want to check their apparel too, because I know that apparel right now is a sore subject for these retailers, because they have a lot of inventory that the shoppers just aren't interested in buying and or can't afford. But I was waiting in line at the checkout, and I was in line for the self checkout, and which is pretty much the only line that they kind of have. That's how they direct you at first. And I think this is their way of conditioning you and your brain and creating a muscle memory to adopt this new technology and new way of life of self-checkout. But or this new way of less people, more machines. But while I was standing in this long line, actually, it's pretty long, I saw a young man at an open register without anyone waiting to check out. So I got out of the line and I just went straight to him. And this is when I saw the struggle. So this young man proceeded to check me out, help me with the checkout. He wasn't checking me out. It wasn't like that. And so he doesn't speak. He doesn't wave me over, but I just see him there standing there all by himself. And his light was on. So I went over there to him. And he didn't speak. He didn't really acknowledge me. He didn't look at me. And I don't think that he had any sort of animosity or anything like that towards me. It's just that this is just his personality, so to speak. So, I was like, hey, how's it going? Good morning. How you doing? And he's like, fine. But, that was pretty much it. And so it's just one magazine. He rings it up, gives me a total. And I decided to pay in cash. And so I gave him cash for the magazine, and he actually was kind of struggling with providing me change. And I noticed it was really odd. I noticed that on the cash register, and it wasn't just his, because I looked around at the other registers as this was going on, because I was kind of like perplexed by what I saw. And the cash register had coins. It had a quarter, it had a dime, it had a nickel, and it had a penny taped to the register. And all of the registers, if you look around, you see them all taped at the top of the register or the top of the keyboard. And they're there because, and they had amounts written on them. They're there because employees, which they're moving away from these employees all in these roles and moving to the self-checkout more and more. But the employees, they don't know the denominations of the currency, the coins, the dollar bills, 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, 50, 100. They see that. But the coins themselves, they don't clearly state their value. So they tape them to one of each to the register, and then they, with a Sharpie or magic marker, they write what they're worth. And I could see that he was kind of struggling with the change and all that, and adding it up and calculating it, and the coins and everything. And it was like, I said, "Hey man, is everything okay?" And he was like, "Yeah, it's fine. I'm new." And I was like, "Did they train you here?" He goes, "Not really. They don't really train me here, but I'm trying." And at least they gave me some hours. Normally they don't give me hours. So now he's kind of opening up. He's starting to talk to me a little bit. And there's nobody in line. Everybody else is waiting for the self-checkout. So I didn't feel bad having this conversation with him because I wasn't holding anybody up. And, he says, "I'm new here. I'm trying to get used to this. This is all new to me." And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" And he's like, "Well, I don't have a lot of experience. Like, I don't." He was kind of struggling to talk, but what it boiled down to was he said that he didn't really deal with people a lot. So this is really a new thing for him. And what it was he said that he came from, he grew up on a farm. Yeah. He's like, I'm just going to paraphrase this story for you, but he's like, "I grew up on a farm, and, I didn't have a lot of friends, and, I spent a lot of time with my mom. But she was my homeschool teacher, and now, we're here, and I'm trying to go to school, and I'm trying to, work and earn some money, but, this is all new to me." And that's when it hit me. So not only are these stores struggling with their employees and their staffing, and their cash flow, and their revenues and their profits and losses, and then employees and new hires and training and all that. There's so many struggles going on. It's unbelievable. But then you have the folks like that do want to work. So you can't just have this blanket statement saying that people don't want to work. You got people who do, and those who do and are willing to accept the conditions that that are there now. Like, the job market's not great. It's not great. So the employees that are willing to apply and come to work and do the work and get minimal hours and unsavory conditions as far as the work environment goes, this is what we're faced with. This is our new workforce. And part of that includes some folks that didn't necessarily grow up the same way as everybody else, as a majority of people growing up and going through school and developing these social skills and learning these basics, basic skills of engaging in society. And this homeschool, there's nothing wrong with homeschool, nothing wrong with it at all. But with homeschool, what you got to understand, you got to realize, and some people may object to this, and some people may actually there's videos on YouTube of other people talking about homeschooling and how they feel about it, and if anyone kind of goes against that or has any opposition to what they say, then they're liars. I'm not gonna go that far. I'm just gonna say, it's like a compromise. Everything has a compromise. Everything has a give and take. But with homeschooling, typically, you find yourself in a situation where the social aspect of it is very limited because of, who you're around. You're typically around your family, but usually just like one parent, and statistically the mom. So you got a lot of moms raising boys to be men, hopefully, and not a lot of social interaction and engagement and real world scenarios and critical thinking and processes like that. They don't really occur. You get a curriculum, you follow the curriculum, you do you do what you need to do to educate as best you can, and then you move on from that, and then you send your kids out into the world and hope that they survive. But the crazy part is, it's like, well, anybody can homeschool, and some people, they want to homeschool because of the changes the bad changes that we're seeing, the negative changes that we're seeing happening in schools and school boards in different districts and curriculums and structures like that is crazy. The safety component, So more people want to do it, but then they say that they can't for whatever reason. And I've actually watched other videos on YouTube that, will explain, or they'll kind of explain how people can make it work with their schedule and different things like that. But sometimes it's easier said than done. But even if you can make it work, even if you have the time or whatever, and it almost seems like usually it's like more of like a rural family living on a farm that have, they typically do the homeschool. Maybe, it's location based, but not everyone who chooses to be the teacher, who chooses to be the leader and instructor of a homeschooling setup is qualified to teach subjects. So in this particular situation, I'd have to lean on the fact that math wasn't a strong suit of the teacher and or the student, because if we are sitting here today struggling to make change and you have to refer back to coins that are taped to your cash register that are marked with values, then I feel as though that the educator and the teacher has failed the student, where this is a struggle. And this is not a bash against homeschool in general. It's just me pointing out something that I noticed and I recognized that is a part, and it happens in public school too. It happens in public school too, because oftentimes the public schools, they just want to get the kids through the class and through the grade and on to the next. And, they're not super concerned with the kids actually learning. But we are going to be faced with this more and more as our society changes and our workforce changes. And, as homeschool becomes more popular and more kids go through the process and graduate from it and start entering into the real world and entering into the workforce, we're going to see more and more folks that we're going to be engaging with and interacting with on a regular basis that didn't graduate high school, that didn't go to traditional schools. They more than likely went to a homeschool. Maybe they went to an online school, who knows? And there's going to be some disconnects. There's going to be some gaps. We're going to notice some changes that we've never really experienced before, that we're going to see more and more of as time goes on. This is evolution. Unfortunately, I think that our world has evolved so rapidly to a point in which we've gotten to where we are today. And now the evolution is almost kind of going backwards. It's kind of weird. But I think we'll push through. I think we'll survive. But, I have nothing against homeschool. I have nothing against those who chose homeschool. I have nothing against those who want to do homeschool. But I do think that, just because you do, just because you hold a certain role, just because you have a certain title, doesn't necessarily mean you're qualified. Just because you're allowed to, think about it. We're sitting here in the parking lot. You see cars driving by. Just because a car is here, just because you own a vehicle, just because you're licensed, doesn't mean you're really qualified. You guys know what I mean. You got some bad drivers out there. I got some bad history, driving records, accidents, negligence. They don't pay attention. They're in a hurry. You see what I'm saying? Sure, you're capable. You're allowed to, but it doesn't mean that you're really good at it. You see what I'm saying? So, again, I'm not bashing those who do the homeschool and all that, but I am saying that I'm starting to see, a transition and a shift and a change in our society. And now I'm going to start to have to ask some people more as I see it going on. Like, hey, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where you from? What school did you go to? I'm just kind of curious, because I feel like, I grew up on a farm. My mom, she taught me homeschool. And I bet you that's going to be I'm going to hear that more than I have ever expected now, if I can even find anybody who's working, because people working in short staff is like crazy. And I don't even know how these businesses are staying alive. I don't know where the money's coming from, or maybe they're just running through their retained earnings and just depleting their cash flows and lines of credit completely, because this is getting ridiculous. But either way, I wanted to share that with you guys. I'll bring you some updates soon with some information from the Forbes magazine that I did buy about the economy, about the housing market, about investing and you're building your wealth and maintaining your wealth and trying to survive this crazy economic time that we're in. I'll bring you guys some updates on that real soon. So you guys take care. Be safe. Bye.